I felt these divine arms wrap around and just hold me and my little boy.
Daniel Harper's car spun across the mountain road, metal screaming, glass shattering, time collapsing into silence. In a single heartbeat, his life shattered, his wife and youngest son gone, his body broken, and his spirit hovering between worlds. But death wasn't the end. What awaited him beyond the crash wasn't darkness, but a truth more powerful than pain, a journey into light, forgiveness, and the boundless reach of love. This is the story of what he saw when he died. Hold on a minute. If you have not subscribed to our channel, do well to subscribe, like, comment, and share videos of this channel. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell.
My name is Daniel Harper. I'm 42 years old, and I live in Flagstaff, Arizona. I've been a middle school teacher for nearly 2 decades now, teaching social studies to kids between the ages of 11 and 14. It's not always easy, some days are a little chaotic, but I've always loved what I do. There's something meaningful about helping young people understand the world and their place in it. Watching them grow, challenge ideas, and begin to form their own voices has always given me a sense of purpose. Life in Flagstaff is quiet, the kind of quiet I've always appreciated. We're tucked away up in the mountains, where the air feels a little cleaner, and the nights come with a hush you don't get in big cities. I never wanted much more than this, just a steady job, a roof over our heads, and time with the people I love. I've never been one for surprises or chasing something bigger. My idea of happiness has always been rooted in the small, steady things, the way my sons laugh at each other's bad jokes, or how the sunlight pours through our kitchen window on weekend mornings. My wife, Maya, is the heart of our home. We met in college and have been together ever since. She has a calm strength that steadies me. Where I tend to overthink and worry, she brings balance, reminding me to breathe, to slow down, to let go. She works part-time at the local library, and she's the kind of person everyone seems to trust right away. Kids love her, and so do the elderly folks who stop by just to talk. She listens, really listens, which is rarer than people think. Lucas is 15, already taller than me, and full of questions. He's got a sharp mind and a kind heart, and sometimes I look at him and wonder how someone like me helped raise someone like him. Eli is 11, more reserved, but just as bright. He's the kind of kid who'll sit and draw for hours, completely lost in his own world. They're both so different, and yet they're close, always looking out for each other. I used to think we had all the time in the world. I'd go to work, come home, help with homework, grill on weekends, maybe take a road trip now and then. Nothing extraordinary. But I was okay with that. In fact, I was grateful for it. I had no reason to question the path I was on. My life was full in all the ways that mattered. Or so I thought. It was the last day of our spring break trip, and we were driving back from a quiet weekend in the White Mountains. We had rented a small cabin up there, nothing fancy, just a place where the 4 of us could be together without distractions. No Wi-Fi, no work emails, no school obligations, just board games, campfires, and the sound of wind moving through pine trees. It was exactly what we needed. That morning, the air had been cool and clear. We packed up slowly, not in a rush. The boys helped gather firewood to return to the pile, and Maya made us one last pot of coffee. We stood outside the cabin, sipping from our mugs, watching the steam rise in the chilly air. I remember thinking, this is it, this is the kind of moment I want to remember when I'm old. It was peaceful, unremarkable to anyone else, but full of meaning to me. On the drive home, the boys sat in the back, sharing earbuds, listening to a playlist they put together. Every now and then, one of them would burst out laughing, and the other would shush him, laughing too. Maya sat next to me, flipping through a book she had barely started over the weekend. Her hand rested on my leg in that casual way that made everything feel grounded. We drove along the scenic route, windows cracked to let in the crisp spring air. The snow was starting to melt, and you could see the green poking through, early signs of life returning. We passed winding creeks and open fields, horses standing quietly near fences, and hills that rolled on like waves. There was a kind of silence to it all, not empty, but full, like nature was whispering instead of shouting. At one point, Maya looked over at me and smiled. "This was a good trip," she said. I nodded, my eyes still on the road. "Yeah," I said. "It really was." And I meant it. I remember glancing at the boys in the rearview mirror, thinking about how fast they were growing, how this time, this simple time, wouldn't last forever. I felt grateful. Maybe more than I had in a long time. We weren't talking about anything heavy. Just little things. Where we might go next summer. What we'd have for dinner when we got home. Lucas made a joke about how I snore like a bear, and everyone laughed, even me. It felt like life was moving in slow motion, in the best way. If you had asked me then, I would have told you that nothing could ruin that day. I had my family, the open road, and a heart full of contentment. But none of us knew what was waiting around the next bend. The road curved gently through a stretch of tall trees. I remember a flash of sunlight cutting across the windshield, almost blinding for a second. I squinted, adjusted the visor. Lucas was humming to whatever song was playing in his earbuds. Maya had just asked if we had enough gas to get all the way home. Then, nothing made sense. A truck came out of nowhere, barreling toward us in the wrong lane. I had maybe 2 seconds. I swerved, braked, shouted. Maya gasped, just a short, sharp sound. I remember the screech of tires, the sickening crunch of metal twisting, the explosion of shattered glass. The world flipped. Not metaphorically. Actually flipped. There was spinning, weightlessness, a blur of light and shadow. Then everything stopped with a final, deep, thunderous crack. Silence. Then a high-pitched ringing. Somewhere far away, someone was screaming. It might have been me. My chest was crushed by something. My head lolled to the side. All I could see was blood smeared on the inside of the windshield. My vision doubled, then tripled. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. Time didn't pass in seconds, it crawled in broken fragments. The cold air rushed in through a shattered window. I remember the smell. Oil, burning rubber, and something metallic, like pennies in a fistful of water. People's voices came in and out like a radio cutting in and out of range. "Is he alive? Stay with me, sir, just stay awake. 2 others can't find a pulse." I didn't know what they meant. I didn't want to know. And then, darkness. Not sleeping. Just absence. A space with no shape, no weight, no sound. I floated in it, aware of nothing except that I wasn't in my body anymore. There was no fear, just confusion. I thought about Maya's hand on my leg. About Eli's laugh. When I woke up, it was 2 days later. I was in a hospital bed. Tubes in my arms. Bandages. My ribs were broken. Concussion. A shattered collarbone. The nurse looked at me with a face I'll never forget. Gentle, but heavy with pity. A doctor came in. He sat beside me. Didn't look at his clipboard, just met my eyes. "Daniel," he said, "I'm so sorry. Your wife and younger son didn't make it." I didn't cry. I didn't say anything. My mind couldn't hold the words. I heard them, but they didn't land anywhere. I stared at the ceiling. My heart beat. The machines beeped. I was alive. But it didn't feel like life. Just air moving in and out of a broken body. The days after I woke up were a blur of pain and silence. I couldn't move much. My left leg had been crushed beyond saving, they had to amputate it below the knee. I didn't even realize it at first. A nurse told me gently one morning, after a second surgery. I stared at the blanket covering the empty space, trying to understand how that could be real. My body hurt all over. But it was nothing compared to what was happening inside me. Every time I opened my eyes, I saw Maya's face. I heard Eli's little voice. I saw the way the light had been falling through the trees just before the crash. I heard the tires screaming again and again. Why didn't I see the truck sooner? Why didn't I react faster? Why did I survive when they didn't? I asked myself those questions 100 times a day. The doctors were kind. So were the nurses. Lucas visited when he could. He was hurt too, broken arm, cuts on his face, but he survived. I clung to that. It should have brought me comfort, but it only added to the guilt. He lost his mother and his little brother. And all he had left was a broken father. I didn't want to see anyone. I didn't want to talk. I barely ate. I couldn't sleep. When I did, I saw the crash. Or worse. I saw Maya and Eli standing beside the bed, not angry, just sad. Always sad. The hospital room felt like a prison. The air smelled like antiseptic and rubber gloves. The walls were the same color as the sky just before a storm. Machines beeped steadily, reminding me I was still here. I didn't want to be. They gave me a counselor. She talked softly and asked gentle questions. I didn't tell her much. I couldn't find the words. How do you explain the kind of guilt that doesn't leave room to breathe? Every day, I asked God, or the sky, or the ceiling, why he left me behind. What was the point of saving a man who couldn't even protect his own family? I didn't want comfort. I didn't want hope. I wanted to go back. Or disappear. For the first time in my life, I understood what true despair felt like. It wasn't loud. It was quiet and heavy, like sinking in water while everyone else stood safely on the shore. And I had no idea how to swim anymore. I don't know exactly when it happened. Maybe it was during the second surgery, or one of those nights when the painkillers numbed everything but the ache in my chest. But I remember it clearly, more clearly than anything that happened before or after. I felt myself floating. Not in a dreamlike way, not like when you're half asleep and unsure what's real. This was different. I knew where I was. I saw the room from above, from somewhere near the ceiling. My body lay in the bed, pale and broken, surrounded by machines and tubes. A nurse adjusted something on the monitor. A doctor stood near the foot of the bed, his hands folded. And in the corner of the room, Lucas sat quietly in a chair, knees pulled up, tears running down his cheeks. I tried to reach for him, but my hands weren't. I had no weight, no voice. But I felt everything, his sadness, his fear, his loneliness. Then everything began to shift. The room faded. The walls dissolved like mist, and I moved without walking, drawn forward as if by some gentle current. I came into a place filled with light. It wasn't blinding, it was soft and warm, like standing in the sun after a long winter. There was no ceiling, no ground, just this endless presence of light and peace. I wasn't scared. For the first time since the accident, I wasn't in pain. Then I saw her. Maya. She stood before me, glowing, not in a fantasy way, but in a way that felt like truth. Her eyes, her smile, the way her hair fell over her shoulder, it was her, completely her. But more than that. She looked whole. Lighter. Brighter. Like the version of herself I never realized I missed until that moment. I fell to my knees, not from sadness, but from how overwhelming it was to see her again. She stepped forward, knelt beside me, and cupped my face in her hands. "Daniel," she said. Her voice didn't echo, it filled me. "It's not your time." I shook my head. "Please let me stay." "I don't want to go back." Her thumbs brushed my cheeks, and I realized I was crying. "You have to go back," she whispered. "Lucas needs you. You're not done." "I can't do it alone," I told her. "You won't be alone," she said. "I'll be with you. Just not in the way you expect." She kissed my forehead, the softest, most real touch I've ever felt. It wasn't a dream. I know that now. It was more real than anything on this earth. Then she pulled back. "I love you," she said. And then the light began to fade. Her face became a blur. The warmth ebbed away, and a cold, searing pain rushed in like a wave crashing over me. I woke up gasping. The machines were beeping faster. My leg throbbed. My chest felt like it had been cracked open. The room was dark again, heavy with hospital air. I turned my head, and Lucas was there, sleeping in the chair with a blanket wrapped around him. I wanted to tell him everything, but the words wouldn't come yet. All I could do was cry. And this time, the tears weren't only for what I had lost. They were for what I had seen. For what I had been given, even if only for a moment. Maya was gone. But I had seen her. And I knew, somehow, I wasn't alone. Even after waking up, after they stitched me back together and told me I was stable, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. It started with little things. The room felt warmer than it should have. Sometimes, when I opened my eyes at night, I'd swear I saw a shadow by the window. Not threatening, just still, like someone watching over me. Once, in the early morning light, I smelled her perfume. Jasmine and lavender. It was impossible. But it was there. One afternoon, as I lay in bed drifting in and out of sleep, a nurse came in, an older woman named Janice. She had kind eyes and a quiet way of moving around the machines. She adjusted my fore and then paused. She looked at me a little too long, like she was trying to decide if she should say something. "You've had visitors?" she asked. "Just my son," I said. "Why?" She hesitated. "Earlier this morning, I came in and thought I saw a woman standing by your bed. I only caught a glimpse before she was gone. She had dark hair, shoulder length. She looked right at me. I thought she was family." I couldn't speak for a second. My throat tightened. "She didn't say anything," Janice added quickly, almost apologetic. "It must have been my eyes playing tricks on me. But I knew it wasn't. I didn't tell anyone else. Not yet. But more nurses gave me those strange glances, like they knew something they weren't saying. One even whispered, 'You're not alone, you know,' as she changed my sheets. I started to wonder if Maya really was gone. Or maybe she had found a way to stay close, to keep her promise. I didn't understand how any of it worked, and I didn't need to. All I knew was that every time I felt like falling apart, I sensed her near me. Like a quiet breath on my neck, or a gentle hand on my shoulder. She was there. Somehow, she was still there. That night was the worst yet. The pain hit like a wave I couldn't outrun, burning, pulsing, radiating through every part of me. My chest was tight. I could barely breathe. Nurses rushed in. Alarms screamed. But all of that faded quickly. Then everything stopped. No sound. No pain. No weight. I was out of my body again. I saw the room below me, the chaos, the rush to bring me back. But I wasn't afraid. I felt calm. Carried. Like I was being gently lifted. Then I passed into something greater. The light wasn't just bright, it was alive. It wasn't like any light I'd ever seen. It had color, but not like colors we know. These were deeper, more felt than seen, golden hues that shimmered with meaning. Every ray wrapped around me with love, like it knew me completely. And then I felt it. A presence. It didn't speak with words, but I understood everything. It wasn't male or female. It was simply love. A perfect, overwhelming, unconditional love. I had no defenses in front of it, and I didn't need any. I felt safe. Known. Forgiven. Then the life review began. I didn't just watch my life, I experienced it again. Every moment, from the trivial to the turning points. But here's the thing. I didn't just see them through my eyes, I saw them through the hearts of the people I'd affected. I felt my mother's quiet pride when I graduated. I felt Maya's joy the first time I told her I loved her. I felt Lucas's trust when I read to him at bedtime. Eli's warmth when he held my hand walking into preschool. But I also felt the pain I'd caused. I felt Maya's sadness on nights I pulled away and didn't talk. I felt the student's shame when I once snapped at him too harshly. I felt my own numbness, the way guilt had poisoned me after the accident. I expected judgment. But there was none. Just compassion. Just understanding. Even the moments I hated about myself, I saw them now as chances to grow, not as sentences to carry. I saw that my guilt, while human, wasn't what I was meant to hold on to. Love saw me completely, and didn't turn away. The presence seemed to ask me, gently, Now that you've seen, what will you do? How do you know that? She asked quietly. I thought about that moment while I was in the waiting room. I don't even think I've ever mentioned it to anyone, not in years. I told her what I'd seen. Her coffee cup. Her eyes. Her thoughts. Emily started to cry. Not in fear. Not in sadness. It was like a dam broke inside her. You were really there? She whispered. I felt something, but I thought I was just making it up. I nodded, overwhelmed. We didn't need to say much more. That moment spoke for itself. That one shared experience, profound and impossible to explain, became a turning point for us. Not just as a couple, but as people. It changed the way we looked at the world. For me, it confirmed beyond a doubt that our souls speak louder than our voices ever could. And for Emily, it meant she hadn't imagined it. That love and memory can bridge even death itself. The peace of that place was unlike anything I'd ever known. There was no fear, no pressure, no sense of time rushing past. It was as if every moment stretched into forever, and yet nothing felt slow. It just was calm, vast, and full. I remember drifting in that state, still deeply connected to Emily and everything I'd witnessed, but also beginning to feel distant from it all. There was a pull, not just physical, but spiritual. A tug in both directions. Part of me wanted to stay in that light, in that endless calm. But another part of me was starting to feel the weight of the life I'd left behind. I didn't see a figure, but I sensed something, like a presence, enormous and gentle all at once. It didn't speak in words, but I knew what it was saying. You can stay, but you won't be finished. That hit me hard. I thought of Emily. I thought of my younger brother Caleb. My parents. I saw flashes of their lives without me, gaps I would leave behind, not just in birthdays or dinners, but in deeper ways. The times they would need comfort, or support, or just someone to remind them they weren't alone. I felt the weight of all that. Then came a moment of stillness, and I heard a thought, so clearly that it echoed inside me. It's not your time. And with that came understanding. I wasn't being forced to go back. I was being trusted to make the choice. But deep down, I knew what had to happen. As tempting as it was to remain in that peace, I couldn't walk away from what I was meant to finish. There wasn't a dramatic goodbye or farewell. It was just a quiet acceptance. A deep breath in the soul. And then I let go of the light. The moment I chose to return, it felt like everything folded inward. That weightless feeling began to slip away, and something heavier took its place. My body, my life, the pain. But even as I left that realm behind, I carried with me a strange sense of strength. I wasn't the same person anymore. I had seen too much. And now I knew death wasn't an end. It was a doorway. But mine hadn't opened fully, not yet. Coming back was not gentle. I had imagined it might be like waking from a deep sleep, peaceful and slow. But it was more like being shoved into a tight, cold space after drifting free in endless warmth. The very first thing I noticed was how heavy everything felt. My body, my chest, my arms, it was like wearing a wet coat made of lead. The light was unbearable. Sharp, clinical, wrong. I tried to open my eyes, but even a sliver of light felt like someone shining a flashlight directly into my skull. The sounds were louder than they should have been. Beeping machines, shuffling feet, the low murmur of voices. I couldn't make out words, just noise, jumbled and too close. Then, just like that, I was awake, fully conscious, far too early. I gasped and sat up in the recovery room, which immediately sent a nurse running toward me. Jason, you need to lie back. You're not ready yet. I heard her say, but her voice echoed, like it was coming from two directions at once, one in my ears, the other in my chest. I looked around wildly. The walls were trembling with energy, like heat waves over asphalt. I could see shapes, outlines, people maybe, but also flickers of something else. Movement that didn't match the physical world. It was like I still had my soul eyes open. Everything was more than it should be. I could feel emotions radiating off the people around me. Worry from the nurse, calm from a man I hadn't noticed standing near the door, though when I blinked, he was gone. I don't know if he was ever really there. Everything was wrong and too much. My limbs didn't feel like mine. My fingers wouldn't move properly. I tried to speak, but my tongue felt thick and unfamiliar. It was as if I'd been away from my body for years, not hours, and now I had to learn how to wear it again. I faded in and out over the next hour. Nurses talked to me. Emily came in at one point, though I could barely hold my eyes open to look at her. Through the blur, I could still see flickers around her, a soft light, an outline. I didn't know what it meant, but I wasn't afraid of it. Even in the confusion and discomfort, I knew this much: I was back. And I had brought something with me. While I was still in that in-between state, half here, half somewhere else, the veil hadn't fully closed. I couldn't tell if I was dreaming, hallucinating, or still touching something beyond the world, but I knew what I was experiencing was real. Not in the way we usually think of real, physical and provable, but in the way that matters deep down, where instinct speaks louder than logic. It started with a presence I immediately recognized, though I hadn't seen her in almost 20 years. My grandmother, Margaret. She looked just like I remembered from my childhood. Soft eyes, strong jaw, hair swept up the way she always wore it on Sunday mornings. She didn't move toward me so much as appear, like she'd always been there, just waiting for me to be able to see her. She smiled, not with her face, but with something deeper. It was the kind of smile that goes straight to your bones and makes you feel safe in a way words can't explain. She said nothing out loud, but I heard her all the same. Her voice didn't come through my ears. It arrived fully formed in my chest. Tell Janice I never blamed her. And she needs to stop carrying guilt that was never hers to hold. I didn't fully understand the message, but I knew it mattered. I knew it was urgent. Later that day, when I was well enough to sit up and speak, Janice came into the room. She was trying to act composed, but I could see the tension behind her eyes. I told her what Margaret had said. At first, she just stared at me. Then her mouth opened slightly, and tears started falling. She didn't try to stop them. She knows, she whispered. She really knows. Janice then told me something she'd never shared with anyone, not even Emily. Years ago, toward the end of Margaret's life, Janice had missed a phone call. It was the last call our grandmother ever made. By the time Janice tried to return it, Margaret had slipped into a coma. She never woke up. Janice had carried that guilt for decades, believing maybe she could have said goodbye, could have comforted her mother in her final hours. It haunted her in quiet moments. Now, here I was, delivering a message from beyond telling her to let it go. That moment changed everything for her. She hugged me and sobbed quietly, finally releasing something she'd buried deep inside. There were other messages too, flashes I couldn't fully hold on to. A feeling about my father's health. A strange image of my son drawing with a red crayon, which turned out to be exactly what he was doing when I was in surgery. Words meant for Emily, some of which stayed with me, others that slipped away the moment I woke fully. It was like trying to bring back water cupped in your hands. Some of it always runs through your fingers. But the ones that stayed? They had weight. They had purpose. And they reminded me that what we do here matters. That we are never really alone, even when we think we are. And that love, real, soul-level love, never disappears. Since coming back, my life hasn't looked all that different from the outside. I still live in Boise. I still put on my paramedic uniform and ride in the back of an ambulance. I still go grocery shopping on Sundays, get frustrated in traffic, and forget to answer text messages. But inside? Inside, everything is different. The peace I felt in that other realm never completely left me. There's a quiet knowing that hums beneath the surface of everything I do. I can't explain it, and I don't try to anymore. I just live with it, like a lantern inside me that doesn't go out, no matter how dark it gets. Before this happened, I was open-minded but skeptical. I'd always believed there might be something after death, but I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about it. Like most people, I avoided the topic unless I had to face it, on the job, or when someone I loved passed away. Now, I no longer see death as an ending. It's not even a mystery to me anymore. It's a doorway. A return. Grief still hurts. Of course it does. I've lost friends and seen heartbreak up close in emergency rooms and roadside accidents. But now, when I'm holding someone's hand while they cry, I don't just offer medical support. I offer presence. I carry with me the deep certainty that there's more. That love stretches far beyond the last breath. My relationships have changed too. I listen more. I forgive faster. I laugh easier. I don't rush through conversations with my son or tune out when Emily talks about her day. I'm here now, really here, because I know how precious this moment is, and how fleeting. There are still days when I get discouraged, or feel overwhelmed, or frustrated. This experience didn't turn me into a saint. But it did soften something in me. It made me braver. I don't fear what's coming anymore. I don't cling so tightly to control. I know that whatever happens, I'm not alone. None of us are. And that message, that quiet truth whispered in the space between life and death, has become my foundation. I know now, beyond all doubt, that everything is going to be okay.